This is the newsroom for Friday, January 15, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, 3 men are charged and remanded for the brutal murder of the Henry cousins. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says the Takatu crossing between Guyana and Brazil will remain closed as that country sees a spike in the new COVID-19 variant. President Irfan Ali pledges greater collaboration between the central and local government bodies as mayors and deputy mayors take the oath of office. And in sport, find out about the Golden Jaguars' journey to international engagements, and Crandon confident Guyana Jaguars can win regional Super 50. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. We're glad you can join us. First up, 3 men who are accused of the brutal murders of teen cousins Isaiah and Joel Henry appeared before Magistrate Peter Yu at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Friday. Those charged are Akash Singh, who after being arrested confessed to the brutal crimes and implicated his stepbrother Anil Sanchara, along with Vinod Gopal. The breakthrough in the case comes almost 4 months after the murders of the teenagers. The newsroom understands that they were killed because the men believed they had destroyed their ganja farm at Cotton Tree Backlands, West Coast, Berbice. Isanella Patwa reports.
20-year-old Akash Singh, called Monkey of Zilot squatting area, East Bank, Essequibo, his stepbrother 34-year-old Anil Sanchara, called Dan Pole and Rasta of D. Edward Village, West Coast, Berbice, and 30-year-old Vinod Gopal, called Maga of Yakasari, Blackbush Polder, Quarantine, Berbice, were charged for the brutal murders of West Coast Berbice teen cousins Joel and Isaiah Henry. Sanchara and Gopal were charged jointly, while Singh was charged separately with 2 counts of murder. It is alleged that they murdered the cousins between September 5th and 6th, 2020 at Cotton Tree Back Dam, West Coast, Berbice. The trio did not have legal representation. They were not required to plead to the charges and were remanded to prison until February 2nd, 2021, when the case will be called again at the Blairmont Magistrate Court in Berbice. Singh gave his profession as a fisherman, while Gopal said he is a laborer, and Sanchara said he is unemployed. Gopal, before appearing in the court and after being charged, maintained that he has been framed and is innocent of the crimes. He stated that he is the main breadwinner for his family and that his constitutional rights were violated since he was arrested on Sunday last. He also claims that they were beating while in police custody.
And I never passed Barbie's bridge, and since my youth man, I live black up, they beat me, they tear up the shop, they victimize me by the constitutional rights as a Guyanese citizen. Sorry, innocent, sir.
The 3 men were reportedly nabbed after an informant went to the police. Singh had allegedly told his relatives and another person about the crime and his role in it. One of the persons he told informed the police, and Singh was then arrested at his Zilot house and later told detectives that Gopal and Sanchara were also involved. He told detectives he and the others were planting ganja in the Berbice backlands, but some others who were also planting accused them of destroying their weed. On the day in question, Singh said they were at their camp when the Henry boys were passing. Singh said they spoke with the Henry boys and asked if they wanted weed to smoke, but the Henry boys, Singh claimed, asked if they had anything to eat. Singh said he and the others started to talk about how they were accused of destroying some weed, and the Henry boys started to laugh, leading the others to believe that it was the Henry boys who destroyed the ganja. He said it was at this point Gopal fired his cutlass at the Henry boys and Sanchara followed. Singh claimed he was threatened by the other 2 that if he didn't join in, they would have killed him too. As a result, Singh said he joined in chopping the boys. He said that they then decided to remove the bodies from the area using a hearse. Singh said Gopal and Sanchara took the bodies out and he did not see where the bodies were dumped. He further said that the area where the murders occurred was set on fire, and he also took the police to the location. Meanwhile, the police and the government have been under pressure by the relative of the boys and the public to solve the crimes, which sparked a violent protest throughout the country. There was also a push for an Argentine forensic team to offer assistance, but the authorities recently revealed that the FBI has been assisting. The mutilated bodies of Isaiah 16 and Joel 18 were found in the Cotton Tree Backlands, West Coast, Berbice on September 6, 2020. The killers carved out a huge X on Isaiah's head while they cut open Joel's chest. The cousins had left their number 3 village West Coast Berbice home to go into the back dam to pick coconuts on September 5th, and that was the last time they were seen alive. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
Meanwhile, President Irfan Ali on Friday reposed full confidence in the Guyana Police Force as he talked up their investigative capacity, saying he has confidence that the police will be able to solve the Henry Boy's murder. The president said the latest developments in the 4-month-old case is very important for the country and it is a big step forward. He spoke with reporters at the sidelines of an event at the office of the president.
As I always said to the media in Guyana, I have full confidence in the police force, in the ability of the crime chief and his team, and I'm very happy that we have made such great progress on this matter. So this was very important for us nationally, and now it's a big step forward, and I'm very, very happy.
Additionally, Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben also congratulated the Guyana Police Force for the major breakthrough in the case. He spoke with reporters at the sidelines of an event on Friday.
I want to congratulate the Commissioner of Police Acting and his Criminal Investigation Department and all policemen too in respect of the now resolution so far in respect of the severe difficulties we had relating to murders on the west coast of Berbice. And the fact that we have done this particularly by ourselves shows that we have the capability, the knowledge, and that we could engage to get difficult things resolved in a fair manner. So while that goes through the court process, I want to congratulate the Commissioner of Police, his CID, and the members of the police force, and also the joint services who were engaged in torrid exchanges and had to display a lot of forbearance in respect of the difficult events which unfolded on the west coast of Berbice, and which created for us a great deal of introspection and worry in respect of our national debate and discussion.
When the newsroom returns, restaurants given approval for indoor dining and prison officers undergo training on how to improve the lives of inmates. You're watching the newsroom. The COVID-19 task force has responded to requests from local tourism bodies announcing that restaurants will now be able to restart indoor dining, although at a capacity below 50%. This is being done even as the task force is yet to allow theaters, which have been closed for almost a year, to reopen under similar measures. Days after the COVID-19 task force closed at least one city business for breaching the COVID-19 measures with regards to indoor dining, it has now relaxed the restriction, which allows for both indoor and outdoor dining to take place. The relaxation of the measure comes almost a year after restaurants were forced to close due to the COVID-19 pandemic and later given the green light to reopen, but with strict restrictions. The gazetted measure was amended on Wednesday last by an amendment notice in the official gazette, allowing for limited indoor dining. Indoor dining is, however, restricted to 40% of the capacity of the dining area. Buffet dining is still prohibited. The gazetted order stipulates that indoor and outdoor dining are now permitted between the hours of 4 a.m. and 9 p.m. It noted also that food services in restaurants are to have tables spaced 6 feet apart, and no more than 4 persons will be allowed to be seated at one table, also 6 feet apart. President of the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, Mitra Ramkumar, told the newsroom via telephone on Friday that the tourism body welcomes this latest development.
I would like to say that we welcome the amendment, and we applaud the task force and the government of Guyana for listening to us. We have had several meetings, and we made many proposals aimed at outlining how it can be done safely, where businesses can at least continue to operate in some way to stay alive and to keep the critical staff. Right? So we applaud the task force for considering our proposal and listening to us.
TAG has also lobbied for the reopening of theatres and outlined a menu of measures to prevent the spread of COVID. The task force is yet to accede to that request. Staff at restaurants are required to wear a mask at all times and are required to sanitize dining tables and chairs after use by each customers. The new measure only applies to establishments that are permitted to operate in accordance with the safety measures. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony explained that before establishments are given the green light to conduct indoor dining, they must pass a rigorous inspection process.
So it's not, you're now going to have full capacity. You're going to have a reduction in your capacity, and that ought to be complied with. So each of the places that would be authorized, a sign would be posted about how many persons they can accommodate. And if they're in breach of that, then we would withdraw the permission, and they would not be allowed to operate indoor dining. So it's a very strict process that they have to go through.
We tell you now that senior officers of the Guyana Prison Service will be trained for 2 days on how to improve their daily duties and by extension the lives of inmates. The training commenced on Friday and will also address the many challenges faced by the prison service.
The Guyana Prison Service Senior Officers Conference 2021 was launched on Friday under the theme working towards improving the image of the Guyana Prison Service. Director of Prisons Acting Nicolon Elliott, during brief remarks at the opening ceremony held at the Police Officers Training Center at Evelary Georgetown, noted that emphasis will be placed on a 10-point plan which plans to address the current challenges faced by the prison service. The officers will also benefit from insightful presentations and discussions aimed at improving the image of the prison service.
This conference is intended to facilitate a meaningful engagement and interaction for all of our senior officers, while being cognizant of the sterling contribution made by those who would have served this noble organization. We thank you for your service. Additionally, officers in attendance will benefit from insightful presentations and discussions which will focus on a wide range of issues that are aimed at improving the image of the service, as well as interaction with staff and prisoners. Therefore, it is expected that at the end of this conference, all senior officers will be equipped with the relevant information to enhance their daily work performance.
Minister of Home Affairs Robinson Ben said he remains committed to rehabilitating the conditions under which prisoners currently live, as well as their welfare and interaction with their families.
Our next duty and responsibility, not simply because we have signed on to international norms, our duty and responsibility is to treat these people well, feed them well, and rehabilitate those persons. We should not find ourselves in situations where those people are kept in degrading conditions. We should not find ourselves where there are issues related to diet, welfare, relationships with their family, and also in respect of the issue that when they leave our care, that they turn out to be worse human beings or destroyed psychologically or physically as human beings. That is our duty.
The minister further urged the prison officers to change their attitude towards dealing with the prisoners, Minister Ben stated that he is also concerned about the welfare of the prison officers and the conditions under which they have to work. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isanella Pato.
Still ahead on the Newsroom, the health minister says the Takatu crossing between Guyana and Brazil will remain closed, and President Irfan Ali pledges greater collaboration between the central and local government bodies. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching the Newsroom. Guyana intends to keep its direct crossing with Brazil closed amid concerns about a new COVID-19 variant detected in the neighboring country. Guyana fears a spike in domestic cases and an overwhelming of the healthcare system should the new variant develop a footprint here. The government and health officials in Guyana on Friday said the Takatu River Bridge, which links Guyana's Letem to Bonfim in Brazil, will remain closed as part of precautions to guard against the spread of the new, highly transmissible COVID-19 variant, which was detected in Brazil earlier this week. With the United Kingdom already banning flights from several South American countries, including Guyana, over the developments in Brazil, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony has said that Guyana will put its own protective measures in place. During his daily COVID-19 update on Friday, the health minister said Guyana, like other countries, is particularly concerned that the virus was being regarded as transmissible. Dr. Anthony fears that if the strain makes its way into Guyana, which shares a large part of its unregulated border with Brazil, it could lead to a spike in domestic cases and crowding of hospitals across the country.
And if this is more transmissible, then more people are going to get infected. And if more people are going to get infected, then we can assume that we'll get a percentage of them, a higher percentage of them coming into the hospital, coming in from the hospital needing ICU care. So these are going to be the challenges if this variant circulates in our country. So it is something that is now being investigated. It's only been detected about 3 days ago.
The health minister said with Guyana's land border closed for several months now, heightened joint service patrols will continue along the margins of the two countries to guard against unregulated crossing. Guyana and Brazil allow for a once-weekly passing of goods between the two countries, an exercise that Dr. Anthony said is properly supervised by the health authorities on both sides.
So we are very concerned. And because of its proximity to us, we also must pay attention to that. Our land border has been closed for some time now. We haven't really opened our land border. So the bridge over the Takatu has been closed. We do allow on Thursdays very limited amount of interaction where goods come over from Brazil and goods from Guyana go across to Brazil. So there's a very limited interaction, and that is properly supervised by the health authority of both countries.
New variants of COVID-19 have previously been identified in the UK and South Africa, with many countries imposing restrictions on arrivals from both nations. Dr. Anthony said the World Health Organization also suspects that the new variant identified in Brazil a few days ago may already be in other South American countries. Felipe Neveca, Deputy Director of Research at the Brazilian state-run Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, said the new variant was of concern and its origin was undoubtedly from the Amazon region. President Irfan Ali pledged greater collaboration between central government and local government bodies as mayors and deputy mayors for the country's 10 municipalities were sworn in on Friday. He outlined several ticket items for which the two tiers of government must consult. With a total of 90 local democratic organs across the country, President Irfan Ali on Friday expressed a keen interest in working closely with all 10 municipalities, 10 regional democratic councils, and 17 neighborhood democratic councils. But while central government has extended the olive branch for a relationship that has been often characterized by confrontation, President Ali said the local government organs must also align themselves with government's transformative agenda.
The call to service is one that requires not only you collectively and individually upholding the oath of office, but more importantly, understanding the development shift and the development priorities first, of the municipalities and town councils that you'll be part of, but importantly, also the macro development agenda of the government.
The oath of office, which the elected officials took before the president, officially empowers them to carry out tasks in keeping with their office responsibility for the next 2 years. Mayoral elections were held across the 10 towns at the end of 2020. Dr. Ali said among the urgent issues that need to be addressed are tax rates, outstanding audits, and sustainability and viability of all councils. One major deficiency, he said, is the length of time it takes for approval of building permits. To this end, Dr. Ali proposed a single window approval system to ensure greater ease of doing business.
The government has been providing direct help in investment in many of the town councils and municipalities. But there is still a lot to be done. And this can only be done through a facilitation process. The councils are a facilitator of development, not a barrier to development. Sometimes, in the eyes of the population, they see us as barrier to development, as causing hindrance, creating unnecessary bureaucracy and red tape. That is not what we are there to do.
Those who took the oath on Friday are Chris Fang and Carolyn Robinson as Mayor and Deputy Mayor of Mabaruma, Rajendra Prabhulal and Lorna Fitzallen of Anna Regina, Ubraj Narain and Alfred Mentor of Georgetown, Winifred Haywood and Wainwright McIntosh of New Amsterdam, Dave Boodoo and Roydell Lewis of Rose Hall, Winston Roberts and Imran Amin of Corriverton, Gifford Marshall and Rita Embleton of Bartica, David Adams and Juane Mendonca of Madhya, John Macedo and Deborah King of Letham, and Wanika Arundel and Wainwright Bethune of Linden. When the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge report along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom now for a look at sport. We start things off with some football news. Guyana's Golden Jaguars have belatedly begun preparations for two major international engagements later this year. The senior national men's team will compete in the 2022 World Cup qualifiers starting March and the CONCACAF Gold Cup prelims from July. To get an understanding of Jaguars' preparation in the midst of a pandemic, Avinash Ramzan spoke to the president of the Guyana Football Federation, Wayne Ford.
Article 4, thank you very much for taking some time out to speak to us today. The Golden Jaguars would have started preparation a bit belatedly for those important engagements coming up later this year. Talk to us a bit about what point we are at this point and how satisfied are you with what you've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Thank you for having me, Avinash. The feedback that I've received from the technical staff has been very positive. During the pandemic, our physical trainer had been circulating personal workout programs for our players, and he was very pleased that the evidence so far seems to indicate that they were taking those workout programs very seriously and they were applying it. Many of the players I learned that went back into camp are at a decent level of fitness despite the long layoff. So it will make the work of the head coach and his staff to get to the tactical and technical aspect of the preparation much easier than they had anticipated before they got into camp.
Right. Whenever we're putting together a senior national football team or any other football team for that matter, for international engagements, we have always had this discussion about local-based, foreign-based. What is the Federation's stance on the possible combination of the squad for the Golden Jaguars this year, given the fact that some of the local-based players have not had any pitch time compared to those overseas? Is there an advantage-disadvantage situation going on here?
Well, I think someone who has been playing active football at a high level will always have an advantage over someone who is not playing at a high level. And when you combine that with not playing for almost a year, there is clearly an advantage for the person who's playing consistently at a high level. But I think the real question that you're asking me is about balance, and that's obviously that's something that's very topical for many, many years in our football space. As I would have said last night on one of an interview I was doing on a separate media house, the Guyana Football Federation overarching policy as it relates to the Golden Jaguar is to always put out the strongest possible team. We have given some very clear and broad guidelines to the senior men national team coach Maximo. He understands exactly what we expect to see. He understands the performance that we expect to see on the pitch. We are making tremendous investment in the program. Our goal is to, over the next couple of years, to have the #1 national team program in the region. So it would be the judgment of the national team coach. We have set ourselves some very interesting goals for the World Cup qualifier and the World Cup, which will commence in July. So he is fully aware of those goals. He understands the overall strategy that we have, and it is his decision and his team to sit together and make the best decision with regards to putting the strongest possible team out there.
All right. After about 10 months, you had an opportunity to see local players on show in the Kashmir Shanghai Bounce Back tournament. Just 3 matches, but what's been the feedback from the technical team in terms of what we have seen on the pitch with those players?
Well, if I may, it's the GFF KNS Bounce Back event, and we've had trouble with that. I think everyone was pleasantly surprised that after being out of structured football for the better part of 10 months, the game was a good quality. The games were good quality games. You can see clearly that the pace of the players were a bit off. The game was a bit slow, but in terms of the overall technique, receiving the ball, passing the balls, I think in general, you had to be pleased with what you would have seen, given the fact that all of those players would have been inactive for quite a bit of time.
Looking ahead to these games coming up now, obviously the ultimate aim for yourself and for the team is to register victories. That is what you want at the end of the day. What are some of the other objectives the Federation and the technical staff would like to see coming out of these games, apart from victories, of course?
Well, football is an interesting game, and you would have seen games where a team plays very well, dominate the game, and end up losing. And that's just the reality. What may happen on the day. We want to see a team that goes out and plays with confidence, try to impose their style and their will on the opposition. We know that some of the opponents that we'll be coming up against will have to be a bit more conservative. I know the head coach and his staff are studying those opponents individually, and they're working out strategies to how they would treat with it. But I think what Guyana really needs to see, and what we want to see, is a national team that is going out there and making an attempt to play boldly, trying to impose their will on the opposition. And if for some reason we don't come out successful, the nation must be proud of the performance of the team. I would hope that some of our players that are still here playing within our domestic structure can get playing time, and it can open up opportunities for them for international signings. So that is something that we are constantly working on behind the scene, and the visibility that will come with the World Cup qualifier and then the CONCACAF Gold Cup preliminaries is a showcase for many of our local players, and that is why I've been so eager to get them back on the pitch, and I really trust that the head coach would be able to bring them back up to shape as quickly as possible so we can have a good and a fair representation of our local players in the final selection.
What's next in this preparatory period? I know you wanted to have some international friendlies as well.
We have, I think we want to have about 2 friendlies before we get into competition. Again, their COVID-19 is still dictating a lot of what we do, because it's not just about wanting to have a friendly, it's whether you're going to have the resources and the approval to bring a team to Guyana, put them out in place. So those are the factors that we're still working on, and we'll know. But ideally, we would like to play 2 friendlies before we get into active competition.
All right. I know in October last year, you guys established a marketing committee to really promote the Golden Jaguars brand. How are things going in terms of that aspect of preparation?
It's going very good. I know they've already started some of the engagement with corporate partners. Right now, they're actively pursuing support for the preparation of the team.
Right.
So it will cost us quite a bit each day we have the team training. So our marketing committee is already engaging many companies, trying to have them provide some level of support that will offset the costs that we're incurring in the preparation period. And I know they're already engaging larger partners for more investment for the competition phase of what we're doing right now.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We tell you now that the Guyana Jaguars' hunt to end the drought of regional 50-over titles will resume next month when they head to Antigua for the Super 50. Head coach Ethan Crandon, in making his early assessment of areas for improvement, felt if they perform well under pressure, they can win the tournament. Akeem Green had a chat with the coach earlier today and filed this report.
October 2005 at the historic Border Cricket Ground was the last time jovial scenes after a regional 50-over tournament ensued for a senior Guyana men's team. They have come close to lifting the title with 3 final appearances since, the last of which was October 2018 against the combined campuses and colleges. One of the main issues has been the lack of situational awareness and a proactive approach while batting or bowling, especially in the pressure points of the matches. Some of the players were engaged in a match simulation exercise on Friday at LeBon Intention, and Crandon backed his troops to win the title if they overcome the pressure of the situation.
Here we talk about awareness, whether you're batting, you're bowling, or feeling that's important, and able to win critical moments, and also able to perform under pressure. And something I raised with these guys, I said to them, if we can do better under pressure, then we're going to win this championship. And I just feel that when things get really tough and tight, we've got to find really good ways and to get out of those situations without taking unnecessary risks. Everything is always taking a risk, but calculated risk is always advisable. So I think if we can do that better, really able to maneuver ourselves really well during those pressure situations, think clearly during this situation, and then execute well during those situations, then I think we stand a very better chance of winning this tournament. Because we're not short of the talent, I just think there's a little bit more thought process into it, and to be able to sustain the focus and the concentration for an extended period of time.
After several fielding drills, the players shifted focus to the match simulations. The first batting pair was Chandrapal Hemraj and Trevon Griffith, who had to face 14 overs on the combination of West Indies speedster Romario Shepherd, along with Keon Joseph and Dimitri Cameron, and spinner Kevin Sinclair. The duo scored well over 100 runs, surpassing their target of 77, and just had 1 dismissal. The pair which followed was Leon Johnson and Christopher Barnwell. It is understood a different group of players will participate in simulations on Saturday. The Regional Super 50 is scheduled for February 7th to the 27th, and there is a high probability international players such as Shimon Hetmeyer and Shafin Rutherford, along with Shepherd, will be available to participate for the Jaguars. For the Newsroom, Akeem Green.
Now, following PCR tests administered on Wednesday, Cricket West Indies on Thursday confirmed that Hayden Walsh Jr. has tested positive for COVID-19 and will now undergo a period of self-isolation. The Leeward Islands and West Indies leg spinner, who is asymptomatic, first returned a negative test result on arrival into Bangladesh at the weekend and then had a positive return on his test in Dhaka on Wednesday. This result was verified by a second positive test on Thursday. The West Indies touring squad has been in individual isolation since arriving in Bangladesh, and so there has been no contact between squad members since arrival. In accordance with the established medical protocols, Walsh remained isolated from the West Indies squad and is now under the care and supervision of team physician Dr. Premanand Singh. Walsh will remain in isolation until he returns 2 negative PCR test results and therefore is unavailable to play in the upcoming 3-match ODI series against Bangladesh, which starts on January 20. All other members of the West Indies touring squad returned a second negative COVID-19 test after undergoing 4 tests within the last 11 days. And Cricket West Indies has appointed Floyd Reefer as the new head coach of the West Indies under-19 team. The former interim West Indies head coach and current head coach of the West Indies emerging player and high performance programs will lead the development of the squad as they prepare for the ICC under-19 Cricket World Cup to be played in the Caribbean in early 2022. Reefer was chosen because of his impressive track record in building and coaching successful development teams, including the UE Blackbirds, the combined campuses and colleges, the West Indies emerging players, and the West Indies A team. As a former interim head coach for the senior team and as a batting coach for the recent tour of England, Reefer's experience and knowledge are perfectly suited to help the young West Indians understand what is needed for them to achieve global standards, Cricket West Indies said. He is also a former batting coach for the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots and is the current head coach of the Jamaica Tallowers in the Caribbean Premier League. Still in cricket, Marnus Labuschagne's century put Australia on top after day 1 of the decisive 4th test in Brisbane as dropped catches caused depleted India. Australia were 17 for 2, but Labuschagne's 108 from 204 balls, his 5th test run, saw them recover to close on 274 for 5. Labuschagne was dropped twice on 37 and 48 as India's fielders led down an inexperienced bowling attack. Shardul Thakur also put down a sharp caught and bold chance of Cameron Green late in the evening session. Green ended the day on 28 not out as he and captain Tim Payne, who was unbeaten in 38, capitalised on wary bowlers with an unbroken stand of 61. And captain Joe Root scored an unbeaten 168 as England built a substantial lead over Sri Lanka on the second day of the first test in Galle. Debutant Don Lawrence made 73, adding 173 with Root to help the tourists close on 320 for 4, a lead of 185. Although rain allowed only 53 overs in the day, the start was delayed by 70 minutes and no play was possible after tea. Root and Lawrence batted England into a position of total dominance. Root played beautifully for his 18th Test century, his first since November 2019. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. My name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Do have a great weekend.